Today I'm going to share with you the best tips on how to pass driving assessment. My name is Steve and I'm the founder of Driving School WA. I helped over 5,000 people to get their driver's licence over the past 17 years. And I also coached a significant number of driving instructors in Perth. Based on my experience, here are some of the most common errors that are easily avoidable providing that you keep your composure. Here are the most marked particulars in the driving assessment you need to remember. Not checking blind spot when merging or changing lanes would be one of them, and not doing it correctly. It is scientifically proven beyond doubt that there could be a hidden object behind our ear, which is usually in the region of your rear door window. Now, the second one is not checking blind spot and using signals correctly when overtaking a parked vehicle on the side of the residential street. This is crucially important because in the assessment, you could simply lose a few points in less than a few seconds by not indicating correctly, checking your rear view mirror, looking over your shoulder, and doing the same on your way back once you've passed the parked vehicle. It is extremely important. Not stopping completely at a stop sign. It is so important that you, in the driving assessment in particular, that once you've made your complete stop, that you remain stationary for at least 2 seconds with your foot firmly on brake, and on number 3 you can take your foot off brake and then proceed, providing there's no traffic that you need to give way to. So this applies for situations where there's no traffic at all. So regardless of the traffic, you would have to stop completely without moving whatsoever for at least 1,000, 2,000 on 3, you can take your foot off brake. It's just a guide. There's no rule as such, but rule is we've got to stop completely without moving before we move off again, providing there's no traffic. And not indicating when exiting roundabouts. Indicators are the only way of communicating with other road users from inside of our car. No one's going to know what you're doing by maybe you making some gestures or turning your head, in a certain direction. So if we don't indicate indicate our intention to leave the roundabout, the person from the opposite direction will not know what you intend to do. Not observing a railway crossing when you are crossing a level railway crossing. Now, also, you may have noticed there's a yellow painted zone within the railway crossing. It goes for roughly around 10 to 15 metres. We could never get stranded inside of the railway crossing, because if somebody breaks down right in front of you and you just made it as far as the train's path, so in the middle of the railway tracks, and there's 5, 6, 10, maybe 50 cars behind you and no one's moving for the next 30 seconds, you might be in trouble. So never get stranded inside of the railway crossing. You've got to be mindful of speed limits in the area that you're travelling through, because simply it would defeat the purpose of being a driving assessment if you get let off for doing 60 in the 50 zone. They do tolerate if you are within 5 kilometres over the speed limit, and you may get 1 speed warning, but not more than that. If you're doing more than 5, 10, 15, regardless of how well you performed up until that point in the driving test, they will have to terminate your driving assessment. Taking both hands off steering wheel would be one of the things that they would immediately determine in your driving test if your car is in motion. Even if you're sitting at the traffic lights, you are still expected to have at least one hand on the steering wheel. It means you've got a control over your vehicle. Not stopping When you're reversing out of the driveway, if you see an oncoming vehicle from behind, when you think about it, reversing traffic never has priority over forward-moving traffic. To put it in a different perspective, if you are driving straight ahead on a residential road and there's a driver reversing out of their house, would you expect them to continue reversing into your path, or would you expect them to stop for you to proceed and then they would continue their maneuver? Of course you expect them to stop. Sometimes indicating and leaving your indicators for too long or indicating too early may potentially miscommunicate your intention to another road user that may be turning onto the road where you are currently driving on. School zones. If it's flashing, it's very simple philosophy. If the 40 signs are flashing, do not go over 40 before you got out of that particular zone where it would clearly state end of school zone. Parking within close distance from any type of intersection or a bus stop on a residential street. When you do your exercise left something behind during the driving assessment, we also shouldn't park on the top of the fire hydrant, which is the painted white H letter that represents the fire hydrant. Leaving the car in reverse and thinking you're going to go forward, or vice versa, could cause a potential, immediate fail. So make sure that you got it in the right gear before you intend to move off. There are two main reasons why a candidate would make any of these errors. Number one is being underprepared and unfamiliar with the process of a driving assessment. And number two is nervousness. Think of your driving assessment as a presentation. They don't need to see an experienced driver, they just need to see somebody who can drive okay without causing too many major errors. Nervousness is depletion of constructive energy, and less nervous you are, your execution on the day will be much better. Before the day of your assessment, we will email you with personalised notes based on your recent lessons with us. So you will have the first-hand insight of what you need to do. Once you understand it, it's less likely that you let it slip your mind. Focus on every individual task and you're more than likely to pass.